Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today, VUZI just filed its latest 8K report, and I'm seeing a clear picture of how things went down at their shareholder meeting. Quick note, this is not financial advice, just my take on public filings for educational purposes. The main story here is about who is running the show and whether the company's accounting is on solid ground. Let's dive in. So, what we're looking at is a filing that tells us about what happened at Vuzix Corporation's annual meeting of stockholders on the 16th of June 2026. This is where shareholders get to weigh in on key company decisions. The main points from this meeting are all about leadership, auditor approval, and executive pay. It's pretty standard stuff for an annual meeting, but the details do tell a story. First up, the shareholders voted on who will be on the company's board of directors for the next year. 5 individuals were up for election: Paul Travers, Grant Russell, Timothy Harned, Paula Whitten-Doolin, and Alasdair MacKinnon. They were all elected to serve until the next annual meeting or until their successors are chosen. This means the current leadership team will continue to guide the company. It looks like a pretty solid vote of confidence for this group. Looking at the election of directors, Paul Travers received a significant majority of the votes. He got 25,171,105 votes in favour, with only 161,2873 votes against and 142,424 abstentions. That is a strong showing. It's also interesting to note the broken non-votes, which were 24,770,97. These are shares held by brokers who did not receive voting instructions from the beneficial owners. Grant Russell also saw strong support with 25,175,342 votes for him. Only 1,688,932 votes were cast against him, and 62,128 abstained. Again, a very positive outcome for him. Timothy Harned had a similar story, securing 24,434,867 votes in favour. His opposition was a bit higher than some of the others, with 2,351,409 votes against and 140,126 abstentions. But still, a clear majority voted him in. Paula Whitten-Doolin was elected with 24,616,233 votes for 2,190,657 against and 119,512 abstentions. This shows shareholders are on board with her continued role. Finally, Alasdair MacKinnon received 25,098,601 votes in favour, with 1,706,201 against and 121,600 abstentions. Overall, the election of these directors was a success for the company's current strategy and leadership. Next up was the approval of the company's independent auditor. Shareholders ratified the board's choice of Withum Smith+Brown, PC, as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for 2026. This is a really important vote because it means an outside firm has reviewed the company's financial statements and found them to be presented fairly. The vote here was overwhelmingly positive. There were 46,949,283 votes in favour of ratifying the auditor, with only 1,923,991 votes against. That leaves 28,325 abstentions. This strong endorsement for the auditor is a good sign for transparency and financial integrity. It suggests shareholders are comfortable with how the company's books are being kept. The third item was an advisory vote on the compensation of the company's named executive officers. This is often called a say-on-pay vote. It is advisory, meaning shareholders are giving their opinion, and the board doesn't have to act on it, but it is usually a good indicator of shareholder sentiment. In this advisory vote, 21,461,045 votes were cast in favour of the executive compensation. However, there were 5,191,050 votes against it, and 274,307 abstentions. The significant number of votes against, along with the large number of broken non-votes at 24,770,97 suggests that while the compensation plan was approved, there might be some underlying concerns or dissatisfaction among some shareholders about how much the executives are being paid. It is not a resounding win like the auditor ratification. Okay, so what does all this mean for Vuzix Corporation? The election of directors shows continued support for the current leadership. The overwhelming vote to ratify the auditor is a positive sign for financial trust. However, the advisory vote on executive compensation does raise a subtle flag. While approved, a notable portion of votes were against, which could signal a need for the board to pay closer attention to shareholder views on pay. Looking at the broader context, Vuzix is in the consumer electronics space, specifically with smart glasses and augmented reality technology. Recent headlines show some volatility in their stock price, with mentions of shareholder calls and past losses. For instance, one headline noted an 85% loss for investors in the 5 years prior to February 2026, and another about the stock dropping after topping low first quarter estimates in May. This filing itself doesn't give us updated financial numbers like revenue or profit, but it does give us insight into the governance and shareholder sentiment, which are crucial pieces of the puzzle when you are looking at a company's health. The fact that the directors were elected with large majorities is good for stability, but the executive compensation vote hints that maybe shareholders aren't entirely thrilled with how their money is being distributed at the top. This is something to keep an eye on, especially for a company that has seen significant stock price declines in the past. It is a delicate balancing act for management to ensure shareholder confidence is maintained, especially when it comes to executive pay. The research tools I actually use are linked in the description. They help keep this channel going, that is my take. Stay decoded. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like this video, subscribe for more insights, and join our Discord community, linked in the description.